What if I told you even Disney doesn't worry about being original? I know so many of us have been taught that the goal is to be so unique, right? To say things in a way that no one else has ever said them, to have the most creative tagline, the most clever messaging, the most no one else can possibly say this positioning. But I'll tell you, one of Disney's biggest superpowers and a huge part of why they've been a global brand for more than 100 years actually comes down to something far simpler. It comes down to choosing what Disney calls a common purpose. And today, I'm going to introduce you to this little known Disney concept, why it matters so much for us as coaches and consultants, and how you can use it as a filter for your messaging, your decisions, your client experience, and so much more without putting pressure on yourself to be original. Because honestly, the point isn't to be the most creative. The point is to be clear. Welcome to the Establish Yourself podcast, the show that helps coaches and consultants get clear on how to talk about what you do, simplify your offers, and have more fun in your business and beyond. I'm Annie Franceschi, brand strategist, author, former Disney storyteller, and forever Muppet fan. I'm here to help you clarify your message, package your expertise, and streamline your systems to grow a business you actually enjoy. If you're ready for less confusion and more magic, it's time to establish yourself. So I just got back from my 3-night sold out business retreat at Walt Disney World called Make More Magic. There were 10 of us, 9 other service-based business owners, coaches, consultants, even a brand photographer. And I'm not exaggerating when I say, I don't think the retreat could have gone better. I was saying to my husband, I'd give it a 9.99 out of 10. It's genuinely hitting my top 10 list of things that I've ever done in my career, not just in my business, in my career. It was that fulfilling. I'm definitely bringing it back again, and I'm sure I'll share more with you soon. But today, I wanted to zero in on something special that it brought up for me. To prepare for the retreat, I had everyone read a book called Be Our Guest by Theodore Kinney. It's produced by the Disney Institute, which leads leadership programs. The book itself is all about perfecting the art of customer service. It's relatively short, but wildly powerful. I've read it a few times over the years, but reading it again last week to prep for the retreat, something landed with me in a totally new way. It reminded me that Disney's excellence doesn't come from trying to be the most original. It comes from being insanely aligned around one thing. For the better part of a decade, I've had a very specific conversation over and over and over again with my clients and people who are curious about the work I do, the new folks that I meet, the brilliant business owners who are really good about what they do. So many of them are worried. They're wondering, they're endlessly searching for the perfect message. They're trying to find the most creative way to say what they do. And I get it. Messaging matters. It is the core of the work I do. The words you use and don't use matter. The way you position your expertise and your value matters. But what happens is we start treating messaging and positioning like some creative writing contest. Like if we don't say it in a way that like no one has ever heard it before, then we run this risk of blending in. So we spin and we tinker and we rewrite our homepage 47 times and we workshop a tagline like it's going to make or break our entire business. And the cost of that is huge because when you're in that spiral, you're not taking action. You're not building momentum. You're not creating consistency and you're not building trust. You're just stuck trying to sound so original. And I want to offer a different approach, one that Disney has quietly used for literally generations. In the book Be Our Guest, the Disney Institute talks about something called a common purpose. A common purpose is basically the simplest way to clarify your business's reason to be. It is a simple phrase, a thing everyone can rally around. Disney's common purpose, since Walt started the company more than 100 years ago, has been some simple variation of just this. We create happiness. Now, over the years, they've tinkered with that a little bit. They've said things like, we create happiness through providing the finest in family entertainment for people of all ages. But at the heart of everything Disney has ever done, and it does literally this past week for me, is a simple, clear, emotional, non original promise. We create happiness. If you have ever watched a favorite Disney movie with popcorn in the movie theater, if you can smell the churros on Main Street as I'm saying this, if you have sailed away with Mickey and Minnie on a Disney cruise, you have experienced this firsthand. Without me even naming it, you've probably already associated the emotion of happiness with the Walt Disney Company. And that is not accidental, it is by design. And here's what I love about this: Disney isn't asking, is this the most original idea that anyone has ever had? They're asking about everything they do. Does this create happiness? That is their filter. That is their North Star. And that's what I want to give you permission to adopt in your business, especially if you've been getting stuck in creativity before clarity mode. This episode is the first of several that I'm calling my Clarity Before Creativity series. In more than a decade of the work I've been doing, I have seen so many coaches and consultants get paralyzed, frozen, because they're looking for the most original, most creative ways to say what they do. And they won't go out and talk about what they do until they feel like they have the perfect story. And I want you to be able to listen to this series and hear from so many different angles and so many different takes on success for you to know quite clearly that the thing to move you forward is not perfect positioning, but strategic positioning, smart messaging, not perfect messaging, and messaging and positioning and branding that drives connection, that connects how people already know they feel and the language they already use to the work and the value you can provide. That is not easily done, and it is my contention that it is not about finding the most creative or perfect message. Here's what I want you to consider. What if you had to say why you do what you do in just a few words? Not a paragraph, not a fancy mission statement that sounds like it's on a plaque in a corporate lobby. 3 to 10 words. Because when it's that simple, you can actually use it. You can remember it when you're tired. Your team or your contractors can remember it. Your clients will repeat it back to you like song lyrics. And when people can repeat something easily, it becomes a magnetic part of your brand. During my retreat, I challenged everyone to ask this question: what is your common purpose? What do you and your work create? What do you deliver? And it was so interesting to watch people process this, because at first the instinct is to go, well, but I need this to be unique. And I'm like, no, no, that's actually not the point. The point is that it only needs to be true. One of the things I think is important to name is that Disney's common purpose is the foundation of their service excellence. In the book Be Our Guest, they basically explain this concept of a common purpose and what it does for you. Having a common purpose clarifies your business's reason to be, it aligns your decisions across the work you're doing, it guides behavior at every level, it helps you prioritize when you're not sure what next step to take, and it creates that consistency in the client experience. And I want to pause on that last one because it's not lost on me that I just hosted this retreat, and 8 of the other 9 women there had been past clients of mine over many, many years. That kind of community doesn't happen without consistency of client experience. And it doesn't happen without a clear standard that you keep delivering, something that you can simply explain. And that's why I love this notion of a common purpose for coaches and consultants. Because when you know what you're creating, you can build systems and experiences to support it without reinventing yourself every 5 freaking minutes. This is where I want to give you the big freedom of today's episode. Disney's common purpose is we create happiness. But do you think that Disney is the only brand on planet Earth that could say that? Of course not. Coca-Cola, they literally have run campaigns called Open Happiness. Lego could say we create happiness. Apple could say we create happiness. Nike could say we create happiness. And Disney doesn't go, well, shoot, someone else is saying that they create happiness. Guess we can't say that. They own it. They own it for their own internal purposes, for their own growth. They own it through the way they deliver on it. And that's what I want you to release today. That pressure to find a phrase that nobody else could use. Because here's what's true. Most of us have way more in common than we realize. A lot of businesses are helping people do so many things: make more money, save more time, feel better health wise, feel better in their relationships, enjoy their work more, build confidence, get peace of mind. But that doesn't mean you can't stand out. It means that you stand out through both your truth and your delivery, not through linguistic gymnastics. It's not always about how creative your message is. It's about how true and authentic your message is, how much it invites belonging and connection. So I'm going to share where I'm landing myself. I've done this work in the past week too. And here's what I think my common purpose is. I create business magic. I'd be just as happy to say I create business happiness, but magic just feels a little more me. It's clear, but it's whimsical, fun. It feels like the way I want my work to feel. And now that becomes my filter. It influences how I plus up my client experience, how I surprise and delight people at a retreat, how I show up and support my private clients, how I teach messaging positioning right here on this show, how I encourage all of us to be better bosses to ourselves, to embrace magic and things like common purpose. Because I really believe if we're not having fun doing this, we're doing it wrong. And I know that can sound almost rebellious, especially for those of us who come from corporate America. I did used to be a cast member. I used to work for the Walt Disney Company. I worked super long weeks with wild expectations from my boss. And I thought that hard work always meant long hours. But then you start your own business for freedom and flexibility, and somehow you still bring all those same weird rules with you. So part of my purpose, what's my North Star right now, my magic, is giving people like you permission to actually use the freedom you have built, to build a business that feels like it fits, that feels like fun and magic. At the retreat, someone who really embodied this concept was Liz. Liz runs a business called Sales Savvy, and she's a sales consultant. And I've built her brand, and part of her logo is confetti. And I had challenged her at the retreat, if you as an entrepreneur were a visual landmark, what would you be? I thought for sure she would say confetti. Confetti has been a long held visual idea. But she said that the very first thing that came to her was a vision of a bunch of balloons tied together. She sat with this and wasn't quite sure what to do with it until literally the next day, we're together dashing through Main Street, USA in Magic Kingdom, and we come across a vendor holding probably 40 balloons all tied together. And we take a picture of her pretending to hold it. And something just clicked. And I know just a day or two later, we're talking about her common purpose. And she said, you know what? I realized that that's really what I do. I like those balloons. I bring people together and I lift us all up. You know, it's not 3 words, but I think it's spot on. That is a common purpose, Liz. It's such a powerful example. And yes, so many people could say that they bring people together and lift them up, but this is something that drives her, that makes sense to her, that's going to give her a North Star that's so exciting and fun and true to who she is. The goal here isn't some blue ocean phrase with words no one's ever heard. The goal is instead a true North Star that creates connection. So here's what I want you to do with this today. I want you to borrow this core strategy from the Walt Disney Company, one that has served it incredibly well for more than 100 years. Define your common purpose. What do you create? What do you deliver? What is the driving value and purpose behind the work you do? And can you say it in 10 words or less? If you want help defining this positioning and translating it into messaging that actually attracts your best fit clients, this is the kind of work I do. If you're curious to explore working together, you can book a free 20-minute consultation with me now at greateststorycreative.com/consult. This is a simple, low pressure, and a great way to get clarity on what you want to say and how you want to say it. Let's recap what you're going to take with you today. 1, clarity beats cleverness. 2, your purpose becomes a filter. And lastly, 3, it doesn't have to be unique, just true. Stand out through your delivery, not your fancy vocabulary. If Disney does it, you can too. Next week, I'll be back with the next episode in the Clarity Before Creativity series. I'll be talking about what I call the blue ocean mistake, the trap that keeps smart experts stuck chasing original instead of attracting clients and building momentum. And here is your quick action step. Before the end of the day today, write down 3 versions of your common purpose, 10 words or less. Try this format. I create blank. I help people blank. Or I make blank possible. I create calm leadership. I build sales confidence. I make business momentum possible. Don't overthink it. Just make it true. Hey, do you like surprises? The credits are about to roll, but just like a Marvel movie, stick around to the end for something I put in just for you. Thanks for listening to the Establish Yourself podcast. I'm Annie Franceschi, and if you're enjoying the show, it would mean so much to me if you follow it, leave a quick rating, or share it with a friend. And for free branding resources and more ways to work together, head to greateststorycreative.com/podcast. Now here it is, your moment of magic. I'm sure I'll have more to share about the retreat, but I'm thinking about the final breakfast. Somebody asked me, how do you scale a retreat like this? Retreats are kind of hard to make a big profit on. There are travel costs, the time, the details, the surprises, the logistics. And I actually did make a profit on Make More Magic. But in terms of effort to income, time spent, my private work makes a much better profit. But here's what I want to normalize. Not everything has to scale, and certainly not in the ways that we've been taught it has to. Not everything has to be the biggest payday to be valuable. Sometimes you do something because it just really fills your cup, because it's intrinsically worth doing on its own. There's more than one way for something to be successful and a win in your business. There's revenue and there's joy. And sometimes the most magical thing you can do in your business is choose what is fulfilling, because it creates this ripple effect that you can't always measure on a spreadsheet. And to me, that's what it means to make more magic.